Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to this video titled Adding and Subtracting Decimals Fluently. And you will need to get out your math book and turn to page 121, get out your math journal and a pencil. Now you can see the learning objective for this video is for you to understand how to add and subtract multi-digit decimals fluently. Now I would like for you to do this problem with me. I want you to turn your books to page 122. And we're going to work on number 1 together. So we have 5 and 608 thousandths plus 7 and 765 thousandths. So let's do this problem together. Even though there's a decimal in this problem, do not worry about it. Okay? Whenever you're doing a problem like this, we just bring the decimal down. And once you bring that decimal down, you don't need to worry about anything. You add, subtract, just how you normally would, whether there's a decimal there or not. So we have 8 and 5 gives me 13. I put my 3 down here, carry the 1. 1 and 0 is 1, plus 6 is 7. 6 and 7 is 13. Put my 3 here. Even though I'm going all the way over to the ones place, that's fine. Just carry it over just like we normally would. We dropped our decimal down. You can see it just dropped right down. And then we have 1 and 5 is 6, plus 7 is 13. Now, whenever you're adding or subtracting decimals, the key thing that you need to do is line up that decimal. Okay, you can see vertically here the decimal is lined up. I do not line up my digits, okay, because sometimes you may have more digits for one number than the other. The key tip is to line up that decimal every time, and then from here you just add like you normally would. So now let's jump down to number 7 on page 122. You can see these numbers here are written horizontally. What you need to do to add these correctly, easier way, is to write them vertically. So whenever we're doing this, remember we're lining up the decimals. So we have 23 and 59 hundredths, and I would like for you to do this with me. And again, I'm lining up my decimal, not my digits. So we have 4, and we put our decimal right there, 675 thousandths. Now, one of the things whenever you're dealing with decimals, if you add a 0 to the very end of the decimal, not within the decimal, but the very end of the decimal, it does not add any value or do anything to the decimal at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a 0 there, so now I have everything lined up. And now what I'll do is I'll just add. So you can either drop the decimal before you begin adding, or when you get there, you can drop the decimal. Either one is fine. Sometimes I just like to drop the decimal so I don't forget about it. So I'm going to add 0 and 5 gives me 5. 9 and 7 gives me 16. Put my 6 there, carry the 1. 1 and 5 is 6, plus another 6 is 12. I put my 2 there. I'll carry my 1 over. 3 and 1 is 4, plus another 4 is 8. And then bring our 2 down for 28 and 265 thousandths. So once again, I'm lining up my decimal, and then from there I just add like I know how to do. Okay, now we're going to take a look at subtracting decimals, multi-digit decimals, as you can see. So we have 32 and 8 thousandths minus 7 and 617 thousandths. So same idea with this. We have our decimal point. We're just going to drop it down. And now I'm going to start subtracting. We take 7 minus 8, that's going to give me 1. Now we cannot take 1 away from 0, so what we need to do is we need to borrow. We make that 2 into a 1, and then we bring over the bring over the 1 here to the 0, that makes it a 10. Cross that out and make it a 9. And then now we have our 1 all the way over in the hundredths place. Okay, so we see that that represents 10 hundredths there. So 10 minus 1 is going to be 9. 9 minus 6 is going to give me 3. Now we cannot take 7 away from 1, so we have to borrow from our next door neighbor. Make that a 2. Make that 1 is going to be 11 now. 11 minus 7 is 4. 2 minus nothing is going to give me 2, for a grand total of 24 and 391 thousandths. So it's important, just take these problems step by step. Just do it one section at a time. and then do not forget to drop that decimal down. So now let's jump down to number 7. We have 23 and 27 hundredths minus 6 and 198 thousandths. So the first thing we're going to do is we have to write this vertically. So we have 23 and 27 hundredths. And again, we have to line up the decimals. So we have 6 and 198 thousandths. So now whenever the number that's on the bottom has an extra digit like this, what you do is you just fill in a 0 there, and now we are good to go. You cannot drop. A lot of people, what they do is they would just drop that 8 down. So you can see there's not any number there, and they drop the 8 down, but that's not what you're able to do. You have to put a 0 there. So again, what I'll do is I'll just drop my decimal down. That's the first thing I do. So now I don't have to worry about anything with that decimal. We cannot take 8 away from 0, so we're going to have to borrow. Make that 7 into a 6. And now we have 10 minus 8, it's going to give me 2. 6 minus 9, we cannot do that. We cannot take 9 away from 6, so we have to borrow. Make that 2 into a 1, and now that's a 16. 16 minus 9 is 7. 1 minus 1 is 0. Now I'm going to go over to my ones place. I cannot take 6 away from 3. I have to borrow there. So 13 minus 6 is going to be 7. Bring my 1 down for 17 and 72 thousandths. So this concludes the video that we have for lesson 3.3, adding and subtracting decimals fluently. If you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.